To JBI agent Masayuki Sakamoto, these questions are not the subject of speculation. Gunhead.
It's the final production model!
Asian cinema redefined.
Hello all, my name is Jacob Christensen, and this is Basement Resident, a show where we look at 3 stories straight out of Asian cinema. And today's 3 stories are once again from the horror variety, but don't let that scare you. Not all of them are that bad. As a matter of fact, out of our 3 stories today, I only don't like one of them. And it's the first one we're going to do today. It's out of the Scary True Stories collection, and it's called The Spiritual Flight. Or Spiritual Flight. Our story starts somewhere in the Hiroshima prefecture. I don't know where that is, but I'm guessing it's in Japan. At least I would suspect that. After all, Japan has a lot of those prefectures lying around. Yeah, you know, a country that big, I would suspect they would at least have 47 of them, I would think. That's not really important. What's important, that this story is all about Dorothy. No, that's Dorothy's grandma. That's Dorothy. And nothing against Dorothy. Dorothy is all fine and good. It's just the story she's in kinda sucks. Not in like, oh no, this is the worst piece of cinema I've ever witnessed kind of like sucks. In the, I might have fell asleep while watching it kind of sucks. But you know what? That's not a problem. See, even Dorothy fell asleep in the middle of her movie. Yeah, see? So that means it's okay for me to do it too. Anyways, she was kind of scared of her grandmother. Wait, what? Ah, yeah, it turns out she was into the voodoo and the tom-tom drums and jazz and the act that was so unspeakable the villagers don't shut up about it to this day is watching Titanic and Pirates of the Caribbean back to back to back to back. Drove everyone nuts. What's that? This thing was filmed in the 90s before Pirates of the Caribbean was even a thing? Were you not listening to me? Grandma was into voodoo. She obviously preemptively downloaded the stuff onto her television before they were invented and filmed. Jeez. Also, you shouldn't believe everything you read on the internet because I heard a lot of it is just like wrong sometimes. Can you tell how little I actually care about this story now? Alright, let's bite the bullet. Anywho, Dorothy had a weird experience one day after her grandma died. No guys, I'm serious. It's really, really weird. Just take a look how weird this is. Well, obviously, that paper plane she just dropped was clearly a page out of the Necronomicon. Case closed. And if anybody didn't get that reference, then Kevin clearly needs to do a one-off reviews of The Evil Dead 2. Anywho, that night she's reading the Necronomicon. I mean, H.P. Lovecraft. I mean, Gone with the Wind. I mean, Hello Kitty meets Cthulhu. I mean, Bambi and Dumbo meet Father Time. I mean, 50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey didn't come out yet. 1942. Yeah, she's reading 1942. And while she's reading the book, she falls asleep. See, I didn't lie. I told you she fell asleep in the middle of her own movie. And she has a dream where she has an out-of-body experience and flies around places. But eventually she goes into a graveyard and it's spooky. And then she zip-zaps back and waking up, arms flailing all over the place, while weird Japanese sound effects go off. I'm not kidding, check this out. See? That's straight out of Gundam. On the next day, on her way back from school, she goes back to the place where she dropped her page in the Necronomicon and decides to go up a path. And lo and behold, there ain't no cemetery in there like she envisioned in her dream, but you know, there is a little pet cemetery up there. She realizes she also has voodoo powers, just like her grandmother. And so she's gonna use her voodoo powers for good and fight crime and stuff. Do we get to see any of that awesomeness? No, this is really just a superhero origin story in disguise. Although it is in the True Story collection, so out there somewhere in Japan, there's a superhero using voodoo powers for good. And that hero is called Cemetery Finder. With her voodoo power, she can find any cemetery anywhere. Can you tell how bored I was watching this one? Look, I'm not gonna hold too much against it. It's just, as a watch, not a very great experience. It's pretty much just one of your run-of-the-mill, out-of-body experiences stories. You know, your general, like, I had a dream where I saw a blue bird, and then I woke up the next day and I saw a blue bird kind of affairs. So, for the first time in this channel's history, I'm going to make a recommendation not to see this episode of the show. Yeah, just skip it. I never thought I'd actually do that. Usually I like letting you draw your own conclusions. And if somebody wants to go to like fight me on the validity of this particular episode, I'm willing to hear you out and discuss it. But for me, I thought it was a snooze fest. Skip this one is my recommendation. I know that might sound harsh to some people, but it really is like the experience of somebody telling you what they dreamt about last night, which infamously is a very boring experience. And the style of this episode really takes on that style of storytelling, and it's just not a good way to convey a story, in my opinion. True or not, I think it could have been told in a better way. And with that, I think I'm ready to move on to our next story. Our next story is brought to us by Kodokawa's Japanese horror line of films, and barring the directors themselves, these are pretty much the guys behind the big ones. You know, Ring, Dark Water, Ju-On, things like that. But we're not looking at any of those today. We're going to be looking at their Mystery and Horror Tales Volume 1, a collection of DVDs that I have the Volumes 1 and 3 for. I tried getting Volume 2, but it's just not available anywhere on the internet. I tried looking everywhere, even searched a little bit on eBay, but I wasn't able to actually find the second volume. If anybody knows where I could get this one, could you let me know in the comments down below? Because otherwise, I only have the first and third volume of a trilogy, and that just kind of sucks. Anywho, the second story of today is going to be called Mainichi, the Anniversary of Someone's Death. Whose death? I don't know. Everybody here seems to be doing okay. I mean, we got our main character, Yukiko, but I'm just gonna be calling Yuki from here on out, and this is Yuki's mother and father, and they look fine. Which brings me to Yuki's sister, Mineko. And she's look, Mineko is not doing very good. She's depressed, and I don't mean like, oh, woe is me, everything sucks kind of depressed. I'm talking about staring at a wall for hours and asking yourself, why would you get back up if the world's just gonna knock you back down again kind of depression. A depression so powerful it has encompassed this entire family. Yuki's mother is completely checked out to the point of only investing in meaningless small things, where in the past, Yuki and Mineko never needed to compete for their father's attention. Now, Mineko is just constantly being bombarded and showered by gifts and attention from their father, while Yuki is constantly being ignored and looked over, resulting in Yuki having resentment towards Mineko. Topping that all off with a new job assignment that the father took required him to go out into the country, where he was planning on living alone for the assignment, but Mineko insisted they all move out there as a family together, uprooting Yuki from all of her familiar surroundings and friends. And all this is explained pretty well in the opening, but is underlined very heavily when Mineko wanders into the smallest room in the house and settles right in. The father soon explaining that she wanted Yuki to take the little tiny dinky room and wanted Mineko to go and have the big fancy room upstairs. Yuki is obviously insulted by this and doesn't want to take this little dinky room, but that's fine because Mineko has taken a liking to it, so she's gonna have to take the big fancy room upstairs anyway. The realtor? Neighbor? Landlord? Yeah, I don't know what this lady is, but she knows about the property apparently. She pretty much chimes in and tells everyone that nobody should sleep in this room and they should all just use it for storage. When they all ask why she made that suggestion, she just tells them that that's what the last family did. Yes, of course. There's a bed in a room where the last family didn't use it for a bedroom at all. Hey, it's just a funny question here. If this house was haunted, which room do you think the ghost would live in? Just a question I have for no reason, just for fun. Well, she can't answer any of my questions because look at the time. She has a dentist appointment. And with that, they all start unpacking and settle in. I love how in this shot, there are all these boxes that just say duck. It's so funny. Duck. Oh, come on, it's funny. The only box not labeled duck is full of a bunch of Maneko's old things that Yuki asks what they're going to do with, and her mother tells her that Maneko said that she wanted the family to hide it so she wouldn't have to think about it anymore. So we're pretty much clued into the fact that this is whatever's in this box is probably tied to her depression in one way or another. And that gets pretty much confirmed when we cut to the next scene and see that Yuki has opened the box and started playing videos on her computer of Maneko and her boyfriend named Kunakahihi Hoko. No. Kaha Kun Kuniheka Konakakuku. Hunk. His name's Hunk. We get to watch as everybody celebrates Maneko's birthday. In general, just being lighthearted and having fun and laughing, and like a good birthday party should be. Except for, Yuki, who has to stand back and record the whole thing with the camera. Man, I just want to salute all you camera people out there. All the birthday parties and weddings you go to, and you're just there to take pictures. Just like Rambo. He was just there to take pictures. He was just there to take pictures! After finishing the video, Yuki gets all nostalgic and starts flipping through an old photo album of Maneko and Hunk. After selecting a photo of Hunk, she takes it out, but then gets interrupted by a creaking noise coming from downstairs. She looks down the stairs, doesn't see anything, and goes to bed. Next day, Yuki and her mother are outside in the garden when Yuki notices an upturned stone in the middle of the garden. She jokingly comments that it looks just like a grave, and that's when the landlord lady? Seriously, what does she do? Whatever, she's brought sushi over and tells them that is a grave. The mother freaks out, but then she elaborates and tells them that it's not like a grave. It's a grave for an old pet that the last family had, a cat. At this news, the mother is relieved. The mad realtor neighbor then started spouting out sympathies towards the family as she heard rumors about Hunk dying last year. And with that, we finally know why Maneko is so depressed. And we get a reminder of that as Maneko is in the doorway listening to the entire conversation, walking away in the most depressing and mopey manner possible, resulting in the mother going off and digging into that sushi, and Yuki just left alone to reminisce and contemplate on that grave of the cat. And she's starting to think to herself, who was the family that lived here before them? Mad Neighbor Realtor takes that opportunity to talk about the previous family and says the cat used to be owned by a little girl named Keiko, and her pet cat was her only friend, and then it died, and then she had to go to the hospital because she was really sick. She could barely even walk, and then she kept on going to the hospital for operation after operation, but every time she got back she just got sicker and sicker and sicker. And then would you look at the time, Mad Realtor neighbor needs to go pay her taxes. Oh geez, it's really a bummer that you have to leave everybody hanging with that story you were telling, but taxes, am I right? Meanwhile, Maneko is doing whatever this is. Yeah, that's normal. That's not normal. Indiscriminate time later, Yuki comes home and decides to pop in to check on Minako. And Minako is doing the good old stare and smirk. But seriously, she's staring onward with so much pinpoint precision, she'd give the psychic woman from Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla a run for her money. So Yuki asks Minako what exactly she's smiling about, and Minako tells her that she's just thinking back on a little girl that visited her last night. When Yuki asks what girl visited last night, Minako tells her her name was Keiko and just hung out and had fun. But Yuki finds that entire premise impossible, as it would have been in the middle of the night. What's a little girl going into their house? Keiko is the name of the girl that Mad Realtor neighbor dropped for the girl that lived in this house before them. And it's for all those reasons that Yuki thinks Minako is either just making this all up just for the attention, or she just had a dream. And so Minako at this point is starting to doubt her own senses and asks Yuki if the thing that happened to Hunk was also a dream. Yuki responds to the question with, no, everything that happened to Hunk really happened. Even his death. With that statement, Minako once again was brought back to a depressed state and starts to cry over how much she misses Hunk. I'd like to take this moment to talk about the qualities that this film has. Although you might be able to complain about the visual quality, I think that's more of a symptom of when it came out rather than any kind of poor budgets or anything like that. I really gotta praise all the actors in this film. Now, of course, there's a language barrier here, so I can't really speak to the dialogue, but as far as I can tell, these actors are all really good actors. I don't think they're like S tier or anything like that, but they're definitely A's across the board. I want to say they all did a really good job, and I find all their performances very believable in the context of the story. And with that out of the way, let's continue with the story. The next day seems to be brighter though, as they all seem to be in better spirits and having fun and laughing, having a good time as a family. But Yuki has to go to school, her father needs to go to work, and her mother needs to go to the store, leaving Minako in the house by herself. She starts to hear creaking outside her door, and then when it opens, it reveals a little girl with a crutch, and we immediately jump cut to Minako at the doctor's office, where she turns around in a chair, menacing like some kind of evil Bond villain. I'm not kidding. Look at this. Anywho, this gets revealed to be a psychiatrist interview, and it reveals that Minako's been seeing a lot of this girl around the house, and she's starting to question her own sanity at this point. So how does the doctor react to this? Just give her some pills and walk it off. If the pills don't work, whatever, we'll try different pills. If you guys are detecting some animosity to this method of mental care, don't worry about it. I'll talk about it in the podcast. After Minako and Mother get home, Yuki is curious of how the doctor's visit went, but Minako just walks right in through the front door and out the back door into the rain, and comes back soaking wet with a very dry cat. Oh yeah, a little bonus commentary here. The rain, good atmosphere. Love it. It comes in at the halfway point and it doesn't stop until the end of the film, and boy does it just set the mood. So father comes home, sees that she's got a cat, and Minako is just asking if she can keep it. The father is a little iffy on the whole thing, but you know, he's gonna make an exception. And I would too, by the way. Pets are nice. I like pets. If I was depressed, I definitely would get a pet immediately. But Yuki says, no way! When she wanted a cat back when she was 10, father didn't let her have it, so Minako can't have a cat this time. Obviously, this is just Yuki outbursting because, you know, of all the attention Minako gets consistently from their fathers. But Minako says that she'll just keep it in her room tonight and then let it go tomorrow when the rain isn't there anymore. Later that night, we see Yuki in her room reading a book when the cat wanders in her room. Minako wanders in the room looking for the cat. Yuki tells her that she's changed her mind and that she's okay with her keeping the cat, as it actually does seem to make her happier. Minako is surprised at this, but happy about it. On her way out the room, she sees the box full of hunk memorabilia and decides that she'd like to keep it in her room rather than hiding it away like she initially wanted. Minako tries taking the entire box of things along with the picture that got singled out on the shelf, but Yuki doesn't want her to take that picture because she was the one to take the photograph and the memory is important for her. And Minako is not the only one that really misses him. And that's the point when Minako goes, I knew it, you loved him too. And it turns out they were accidentally or unintentionally in a suspicious love triangle. Only two of the people that were together were completely unaware of the third person, which qualifies Yuki as a stalker. But not like, you know, from your, you know, stalker animes or something like this. I'm talking about like Stalker the video game, you know, where everybody speaks Russian and, you know, there's guns everywhere and, you know, dynamic things. And anywho, that's not important. Minako starts making fun of her, like, haha, you were in love with my boyfriend and I had a boyfriend and I loved him, but you loved him too, but nobody knew that, but now I know that and I get to make fun of you. And then they both get really sad and depressed because, you know, Hunk is no longer here and now it sucks for both of them. Next day, Yuki is coming back home from school in the middle of the rain. As soon as she gets in the door, her mother tells her that Minako went outside looking for her cat in the middle of the rain. So she goes back outside into the rain and then eventually runs into the lady that, like, seriously, what does she do? And some Lord bomb was dropped on her, but then she goes on and then finds Minako. And after Yuki gets Minako back home, she's all like was out in the rain looking for her cat, so she got all sick and now she's in the delirious days. And all she wants is her cat. She just wants the cat. But the cat is right there in the room. Everybody can see it. The cat is there. And Mother's like, oh, you should go to bed because you got school tomorrow. And Yuki's like, but I got a bad feeling. If we leave her alone, something bad might happen. And by the way, Yuki is 100% right, but the mother doesn't know she's in a spooky story, so she sends her directly to bed so she can sleep and go to school tomorrow morning. While lying in bed in the middle of the night, Yuki starts hearing that creaking noise again and decides to go and investigate. At the bottom of the stairs, there's a creepy green glow coming out from her doorway, so she opens up her sister's door and she goes in to find Minako all dolled up. And I mean the whole thing. Red dress, makeup, pearl necklace, the whole 9 yards. When Yuki asks what the heck she's doing, Minako says that she's gonna go with Keiko. And Yuki is like, you are certainly not going out with Keiko. And Minako is like, well, too bad. In your thinky brain, you wished I was dead, and so now I'm gonna go. And that's when Ghost Keiko busts in the room and then like mind blasts Yuki into the mirror, and so she gets like knocked out. And so Minako and Keiko just walk out the door like it's nobody's business, and then they go into the rain with each other. Next morning, Yuki wakes up to her parents weeping over the body of Minako in the garden in front of that grave that was for the cat. And she had died on the very anniversary 1 year later of Keiko's death. Keiko being a ghost, Minako was the ghost. Just, you know, just in case you guys missed it. Cat died, Keiko died, Minako died, all within like 1 year anniversaries to each other. So it goes Cat, Keiko, Minako, yeah. But we're not done yet. We have an epilogue. If you don't know what an epilogue is, it's pretty much just a fancy way in a movie terms going, and then you won't believe what happened next. And what does happen next? On the 1 year anniversary of Minako's death, after moving back to Tokyo, mind you, Keiko shows up again. And this time, she decides to take Dad away. Dad didn't have a chance. just comes right on up and is like, oh, he's my dad now. And there's just nothing Yuki can do. The horrifying premise of this being every year on the anniversary of the last person's death, this ghost is gonna come and take another person's life away from them. And I don't know how you stop that. Well, I do. It's just I'd have to charge someone $1 bajillion to take care of it. I mean, infinite number of people in danger is pretty high. And even if it was like $2 per person, that'd be too much. It'd be like, no. I'm not even gonna bother contemplating that. That's too many numbers. And with that brings us to our third and final story of the evening. Welcome back, Tales of Terror. But first, the sponsor for the video. Residents of Horror Safe Room Podcast. Yes, listen to two guys and sometimes a woman yell at each other about what movies they haven't seen. Yes! Over 4 hours of content and growing. Yes! Featuring voices, talents, and opinions from Kevin, Ashley, and yours truly, Jacob Christensen, the only person with a full name on the podcast. Yes? Go listen to it. Link is in the description. Listen! Or if you prefer to watch, you can do that. We got nice little flickering candles in the middle of it the whole time. Look at them go! Woo! This one's called The School Excursion. And what is it about? Well, two girls going on a high school excursion, of course. Come on, guys, keep up. This is the stuff. Admittedly, I don't know what an excursion is. I mean, I know what it means in military terms, but I don't think that's what this is exactly talking about. I know that they end up in a old-style Japanese hotel. I don't know what an old-style hotel actually is, but I imagine it's been around for a while. And the girls in question, Chaiki and Gundam respectively, were having so much fun on their excursion that stayed up past curfew. And I guess that's a no-no. But who cares? They're having so much fun talking about what souvenirs they're gonna buy and bring back home from their excursion. At least they were up until they got interrupted by this creaky door. Wait a minute. A creaky bathroom stall door? This is starting to sound familiar. Okay, I'm gonna address this right now. Most of Japan's creepy stuff happens in the bathroom. I know it might sound weird, but it's a real cultural thing. And by cultural thing, I mean a lot of these like yokais and spirits and things, they're there for balancing reasons. And if you have a lot of filth in one place, somebody's gonna show up and clean it up. And somebody that likes it. That's not the kind of spirit we're dealing with today in this episode. A matter of fact, I believe it's another ghosty goo, you know, a spirit of a dead person, but we'll get to that in a minute. So Chaiki and Gundam start going back downstairs to go to their rooms and go to bed, but Chaiki realizes she forgot her lip cream? Is lip cream a thing? I don't believe in beauty, so I don't know. I'm not saying that the lip cream itself doesn't exist and people don't use it. I think people absolutely do. It's just that, oh, you know what? I'm getting off track. Back to the story. Anywho, Chaiki decides that she needs to go back up there for her lip cream and save the day, having Gundam just roll her eyes and telling her to hurry up. She's not going to wait all night. Chaiki goes back into the restroom and finds her lip cream, but that creaky door opens again, and so she goes over and closes it. And while she's walking away, it creaks open again. If you ask people why the heck did they ever put latches on the outside of bathroom stalls, this is legitimately the reason why those ever were a thing. Chaiki tries closing it a second time, but won't close all the way. Inspecting the top of the door, she sees a hand, and that's when this is revealed to be a sequel to The Grip. Okay, not the whole video, The Grip, but the one about the hand that came around the corners from the last episode. Yeah, it's back, and it's just executed way better in this. How much better? We don't just get a hand that comes around a corner, we get a leg and a head too. I know Chaiki is freaking out right now, but if I saw a leg come out like this and then a head come out like that, I'd just assume there were two women in that stall helping each other out, which is a scenario that has never happened to me and probably never will happen to me, as I'm not typically a guy that lurks around in women's stalls. But all you women viewers out there, you've probably seen it. Probably. For all I know, this is normal, although given Chaiki's reaction to the whole thing, it doesn't look normal. Look at her, beating against the door, screaming for anybody to come help her. Too bad Gundam went to bed. Ha! Turns out these two films are not only comparable to their ghosts, but also in how they treat the friends and the side characters. In the previous video, that all the side characters and friends were really supportive and good, and this one just leaves Chaiki to fend for herself. Not a good friend. Hashtag not a good friend. You gotta defend your friend from ghosts. Anywho, Chaiki screams out in terror from the ghost, and then the ghost just disappears. The lights turn on, and everything's fine. Chaiki goes and investigates the stall that had the creaky door, ironically has to open it herself, gets a quick peek inside, and yep, no ghost. It sounds like everything's gonna be okay, except for when she closes the door and uh-oh, there's the ghosts. Also, editing complaint, they do this whole thing where they freeze frame and then zoom in on the ghost, where I think they should have just give us that split second of actually getting to see the eyeless terror and then, just cut to black. Cut to black. Just give me like the quick little hint, just a little aftertaste of what the ghost actually is, and then just walk away. If I want to see it, I can just pause it. Now I know this thing was on television and you couldn't do that, so you were worried about what if somebody blinked, and so they missed that cool ghost reveal that you've been working on for 6 hours. Now that just because your audience blinked, they completely missed it. But all in all, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, this one's another good one from creators that I already like, so yeah, keep on doing what you're doing, Tales of Terror. Keep on doing. And with that wraps up our third and final story for the evening. And although it was a rough start with our first story, the second one was a surprise and actually had a lot of meat on that bone. One of the advantages I have when switching to the Tales of Terror's 5-minute per story format is it actually allows me to do those longer form stories when they pop up. In the future, as a general rule, when the longer stories pop up, I'm going to try and just have them in their own individual episodes, because man, pulling that together, just trying to get 3 stories in here was a real tough one for me to pull off, but eventually I did. You have to understand, when I choose to do one of these things, I have to go through it 3 times. So whenever a movie or a short story is like 5 to 20 minutes, that's okay, because at most I'm only spending an hour through the editing process and everything like that. But when there's an hour-and-a-half movie, that ends up being multiple hours of viewing and going through everything. So these longer format movies just take a lot more time to edit. And as our third story, although completely comparable to one of the stories we had in our last episode, I think that it holds its own and is of good quality and is worth viewing. Not because of all of the admittedly very little lines that are similar between these two things, but it's actually the things that make them the same and how it's tweaked just for different scenarios that I find very interesting. Yeah, with that, I'm gonna bid everybody a good night, and you all have a good evening.